Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc.
Elections called in Bermuda ahead of a no-confidence motion against government. That's our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Thursday, June 8. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Nicole Best. Good evening. Bermuda Premier Michael Dunkley on Thursday announced elections will be held next month, effectively avoiding a no-confidence motion. He made the announcement at a press conference a day before opposition leader David Burt was scheduled to move a no-confidence motion in the House. Dunkley said the governor had accepted his request to dissolve Parliament for a July 18 general election. When questioned by the media, Dunkley refused to say whether the planned no-confidence motion had forced his hand.
People who will have their opinions on it. I always had 5 periods that I thought an election was appropriate. This was one of them. I think the people need to decide. We don't need to have rancor in the House of Assembly about the direction that Bermuda's going. Everyone can see we're moving in the right direction, so now it's time for the people to decide and for the politicians to listen.
So are you denying then that the vote of no confidence that was supposed to occur tomorrow didn't hasten this process?
I gave you my answer and my comment stands.
Backed by candidates of his own Bermuda Alliance, that's his one Bermuda Alliance, the OBA, the Premier said while Bermuda had made significant strides, the politics of destabilization now threatens that progress.
Disappointing. And it is why we're here this evening. This election then will be about affirming Bermuda's commitment to continuing the recovery and the national effort needed to keep it going. All of us as Bermudans will have the opportunity to decide whether we keep moving forward on a path that's restoring jobs, opportunity, and growth, or we risk stepping off that path for something vague and untested.
The last general election in Bermuda was held in December 2012 and saw the OBA win by a margin of 19-17. But 2 MPs subsequently resigned from the ruling OBA to sit as independents, leaving both parties with 17 seats. A long-standing court matter between Dominica's opposition leader Lennox Linton and accountant Kieran Pinard-Barron seems to be taking a turn for the worse following the failure of Linton to meet a June 7 deadline to pay £25,992 British pounds as ordered by High Court Judge Brian Cottle in 2012 and upheld by the Privy Council in 2016. Pinard-Barron is calling for the enforcement of proceedings against the opposition leader.
1 p.m. today, my counsel informed me that Mr. Linton had not paid the balance of my assessed costs of £25,992, which he was legally bound to pay by close of business yesterday. This is an egregious legal default by Mr. Linton, which puts him in default of the January 2016 Privy Council costs order. Accordingly, the full force of the law will now be brought to bear upon Mr. Linton until he has completed full legal financial restitution to me.
The matter goes back to 2002 when Linton, then a journalist, made statements on a local radio station that Pinard-Barron deemed to be slanderous. Pinard-Barron says Linton's payment default dishonors the office of the opposition leader.
All where they may all his dreams turn to dust. My legal counsel, in consultation with senior counsel, will now embark upon the process of enforcement proceedings. And that's why I say, let the chips fall where they may. But the full force of the law under those enforcement proceedings will support me based on the Privy Council cost order, in which he is in default of.
A shocking revelation about the mental state of school children in Trinidad and Tobago. Hundreds of them are on suicide watch, and that estimate by the Pan American Health Organization, PAHO, was revealed to the Joint Select Committee of Parliament, which sat to look at the state of mental health in Trinidad and Tobago.
There are currently over 400 students on suicide watch across our primary and secondary schools.
With approximately 200,000 students in the education system, that's 1 in every 500 students. And that's not the only startling fact. Some of these children are as young as 7. Dr. Khadija Khan described the problem as critical, but says no one is identifying and tracking these children to ensure they get the required help.
The problem is great. So suicide is a public health crisis in the country, and it's extending to our very young and our very vulnerable students as well.
Her professional opinion is that the education system itself may be a stressor.
I think the stressful nature of the SEA exam and the current nature of schooling in Trinidad, where people feel if you don't pass for a certain school, your academic trajectory is dismal, puts a lot of pressure on children and parents.
But available services at 2 public facilities are burdened, and as a result, she says, waiting times may be as long as 6 months.
With respect to counseling, I would say I am at pains to think about where a child in need can get those services in the public sector.
Some of these children or their parents call Lifeline. In fact, Lifeline is reporting a drastic increase in the number of high-risk calls.
This particular economic downturn has been brutal. It has had an impact.
Some of the country's mentally ill are treated at the only psychiatric hospital in St. Anne's. Some of them include detainees of the state or those brought in for 14-day psychiatric assessment. Over the past year, 121 persons between the ages of 18 and 26 have been admitted to hospital for attempted suicide.
And that report was from CNC3's Suvashi Tiwari Rupnarayan. The Jamaica Fire Brigade says an investigation is underway following a fire that destroyed a section of the Tower Street Adult Correctional Center on Wednesday. Police said the fire started in a section of the facility that houses 18 inmates categorized as mentally challenged. The inmates were not injured. But Chairman of the Jamaica Federation of Corrections, Arlington Turner, says 2 correctional officers were injured as they tried to get the fire under control before the fire brigade arrived. The Ministry of National Security, in a release, said their injuries are not considered life-threatening. One of them suffered mild smoke inhalation. The inmates in the affected area have since been relocated to another section of the facility. The Tower Street Adult Corrections Center houses approximately 1,500 prisoners, including several high-profile inmates such as popular dancehall entertainer Vibes Cartel. In the aftermath of the fire, Junior Minister in the Ministry of National Security, Pernell Charles Jr., said several correctional facilities are in need of urgent infrastructural development, including the Tower Street facility. He said an interministerial committee has been established to look at alternative housing for inmates with mental health and other issues. And still to come in Caribbean Newsline, St. Lucia's opposition accused of creating unrest in the country. Stay with us, there's more news after the break.
The Sajiko Cahill School of Business and Management invites you to attend Navigating a Path to Growth, a risk and competitive intelligence conference at Hilton Barbados Resort on June 26th and 27th, 2017. Speakers include Global Strategy and Risk expert Dr. Andrea Schotter, Regional PwC Risk Assurance Leader Bruce Scott, Miss Lisa Padmore, Dr. Delisle Worrell, Mr. Ian D'Souza, Professor Patrick Hossain, Professor Gillian Marcel, and many others. For more information, call 246-424-7731 or visit www.uwichsb.org. Secure your space today.
Ready.
It's another episode when we out on the road. This is what we love to celebrate, to celebrate. This is not Hollywood. No, we don't come out the road. Drink, drink, drink. King Baba and Nikita. Every fat dollar boy keep on calling me wrong name. But that's okay, cause that's my bitch. I don't understand how wearing a name tag on me. Don't know what to say, he's still calling me wrong name. Don't get vexed with me. Don't say that.
St. Lucia's Minister of Economic Affairs is accusing the opposition of creating unrest in the island. Castries Southeast MP Guy Joseph says the St. Lucia Labour Party has mounted a sustained campaign that is creating unrest in the country, making it difficult for the UWP administration to do its job. Alison Kentish of HTS News Force tells us more.
The Castries Southeast MP was asked about the party's first year in office. While he outlined some of the UWP administration's accomplishments, he accused the opposition SLP of, quote, making a lot of noise and trying to create unrest, end quote.
I must say they continue to exhibit the traits of character that is associated with the Labour Party. Instability, threats to people, and all kinds of things. I mean, this is our country, and we should not take kindly to any former government or government minister threatening investors. I mean, the Labour Party is so well known for this. Previously, it was said that they are going to write investors to tell them not to come to this country. Now we are here and they are making all kinds of allegations about investors.
Joseph says the SLP would do well to leave potential investors alone. He says if the opposition has an issue with the cabinet of ministers, it needs to take on the team and not the people government is wooing in an attempt to drive the economy.
Investors don't bring themselves to this country and give themselves anything. So if there is a problem, deal with the government. But I think that the approach of the Labour Party is to see to it that this government does not succeed in delivering on its mandate to the people of St. Lucia.
When asked for his views on the UWP's first year in office being dubbed a year of controversy, Joseph says that controversy is to be expected.
How is DSH a controversy? But I expect that once UWP is in office and Labour Party is in opposition, you expect that. I mean, this is not unusual. To pull 1,000 or 2,000 people in a match, hold on, is nothing. I mean, you're talking about the Labour Party has over 30,000 supporters in this country. To pull 1,000 to a match is what percentage of their support that you're talking about?
It was more than 1,000.
And even if it was, even if it was 3,000, I'm saying,
or 10,000.
Or even if it was 10,000, what percentage of their support is that? So, would there be controversy in government? There will always be controversy.
Joseph says the fact is that the people of St. Lucia gave his party an overwhelming mandate on June 6, 2016, and the UWP administration is thankful that under trying circumstances, it managed to deliver on some of the promises to the people.
The government of Antigua and Barbuda has called on pilots with regional carrier Liat to return to work and continue negotiations with the airline's management. The call was made in a statement on Thursday as Liat pilots continue protest action for a second straight day. The pilots and Liat management are in dispute over salary and the time frame in which payments are to be made. According to the Gaston Brown-led government, the pilots have been offered a reasonable payment schedule. The statement says that instead of exercising restraint and responsibility, the pilots have rejected the offer in an attempt to squeeze the cash-strapped airline to pay them immediately. It added that given the challenges of the airline and the fact that the carrier is dependent on 4 shareholder countries to survive, the expectation of the pilots is unreasonable. The government also urged the pilots to exercise restraint, noting that failure to do so would destroy the airline and their own employment options. On Wednesday, over 1,000 passengers across the region were affected by the protest action as several flights were either cancelled or delayed. As the region observed World Oceans Day on Thursday, Jamaica announced that it would increase its marine protected areas. Addressing a UN Ocean Conference in New York on Wednesday, Foreign Affairs Minister Kamina Johnson-Smith said the island is committed to the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, especially Goal 14, which speaks to the preservation of the world's oceans. She said her country is keen for the international community to support capacity building for small island developing states such as Jamaica.
2013, 15.1% of Jamaica's maritime area had been declared as marine protected areas under national legislation. We will increase our marine protected areas by an estimated 2% by 2019 with the declaration of the Pedro Keys and surrounding waters and the Black River protected area. Secondly, we are committed to the strengthening of Jamaica's policy and legislative frameworks governing protected areas. By 2020, therefore, Jamaica will further strengthen its regime governing protected areas, including marine protected areas, with the promulgation of a new protected areas policy and overarching protected areas legislation.
World Oceans Day was observed under the theme, Our Ocean, Our Future. Barbados' Prime Minister Frondell Stewart has called on regional security forces to continue working to boost their disaster management capabilities. Stewart was addressing the start of Exercise Trade Winds, the annual multinational military and disaster management exercise. He said in addition to new and emerging security threats, the Caribbean also remains vulnerable to natural disasters and the effects of climate change.
History, recent and not so recent, is replete with examples of Caribbean member states severely impacted by weather systems and earthquakes. The devastating effects of these powerful natural phenomena are rendered more severe in those instances where our countries are unprepared and where our regional response systems are found wanting. As such, trade winds should be seen as a means of protecting our economies and indeed our unique way of life. As a region, therefore, we can ill afford not to be prepared to confront the multidimensional threat of transnational organized crime, the possibility of terrorist activity by radicalized persons in our region, and the increasing incidence of environmental hazards.
And ahead of Newsline Sport, rising test star Roston Chase looks to make his mark in the ODI series against Afghanistan. Stay with us. Sport is next.
Are you ready? Are you ready now? Hey! St. Kitts! Are you ready? Yeah! St. Kitts on Nevis, Wagwan! Hey! Tell me now, are you ready for some rockers music?
Welcome to SwiftPack, your online shopping and shipping solution. Receive the best rates, expert cargo management, and exceptional customer service. SwiftPack provides secure handling of your smallest packages to your largest cargo with speed and reliability. We invite you to use our U.S. mailbox service, online shopping, ship air and ocean cargo from the supplier to your door. We handle it all for you. Get started now. Sign up for a free regular account or premium account, or give us a call on 440-6100. SwiftPack. You shop, we ship, you save.
Ready. It's another episode. Then be out on the road. This is what we love to celebrate, to celebrate. This is not Hollywood. No, we don't come out the road. Drink, drink, drink.
King Baba and Nikita. Every fat dollar boy keep on calling me wrong name. But that's okay, cause that's my bitch. I don't understand how wearing a name tag on me. You know what to say, you still calling me wrong name.
Rising Test star Roston Chase says he won't take his form in the recent Pakistan series for granted as he looks to make his mark in the one-day international series against Afghanistan starting Friday. The right-handed Chase is the only uncapped player in the 13-man squad named for the three-match series scheduled for the Darren Sammy National Stadium, called up on the virtue of his heavy scoring in the recent three-test series in the Caribbean. But the Barbadian said he was under no illusions that his form in the longer format would automatically translate into ODI.
Confident coming in, having that series against Pakistan, but this is a different format, so I can't really take that for granted. I know I have to really find my feet and work out what are the do's and don'ts at this level.
Chase, who averages only 25 in List A cricket, said he did not intend to make any major changes to his approach to batting in the one-day format.
I think the main thing to focus on is not really changing my game too much because it's one-day cricket, not thinking about just mainly fours and sixes, but just rotating the straight as I usually do and playing away the bad balls. And I think that's the main thing for me. I'll just be looking to rotate the straight as much as possible, and when the bad ball comes along, put it away. But if the team requires me to play a different role, I'm more than happy to play the role that the team requires me to do at that point in time.
West Indies women captain Stephanie Taylor showed early glimpses of form, but the Caribbean side lost a warm-up match to a strong England women 11 on Wednesday. The game was part of the Caribbean side's ongoing preparation camp before the ICC Women's World Cup bowls off from June 24 to July 23. Taylor, who struggled somewhat in this year's regional Super 50 Championship, struck an attractive 60 as the tourists were dismissed for a disappointing 150 of 49.3 overs at Loughborough University. Veteran Deandra Dottin chipped in with 25 and opener Hayley Matthews 22, but they were 3 of only 4 to reach double figures. Once Dottin perished in the 39th over, the innings declined again as the last 5 wickets tumbled for 25 runs. Seamer Natalie Seaver finished with 4 for 39, while off-spinner Danielle Hazel picked up 3 for 21. In reply, England easily overhauled their target but batted the full 50 overs to finish on 281 for 7. Dottin claimed 2 for 14 with a medium pace, while leg spinner Affie Fletcher finished 2 for 32. Meanwhile, head coach Vasper Drake says he is not overly disappointed by the team's defeat in their warm-up match on Wednesday. Drake says he was encouraged to see the girls learn quickly and was impressed by their form on the field. He says the team will undergo some fine-tuning before they begin their campaign later this month.
Also, we was, the first time that we would have played a competitive game in England since arriving in the UK. I think I'm encouraged to see that, that in terms of learning, a lot of the ladies that would have played in this group yesterday, they would have played in England. So, the learning that took place as I observed and I believe was, still based on the acclimatization period in terms of the wickets with the ball seam a little bit and is a little slow. Recognize that, in terms of having the fundamentals that would allow you to be effective in England. I'm encouraged to know that we have Stuart Williams on board, and and he should add value in that department as it relates to having an effective game plan, effective fundamentals to cope in some of the challenging competitions that you have in England. So I'm not really discouraged as it relates to the performances. I think it was important that we get some cricket in this part of this time of the summer. We have a couple more weeks where we can actually fine tune and adjust to ensure that we are actually getting better at what we do. So we still working on our game plans and what sort of methods that will allow us to be effective. So we still have a couple more weeks here. So, hopefully by the 26th, we'll be in a stronger position to get some results that would encourage everyone.
The women will begin their campaign against Australia on June 26. Still in cricket, Delray Rawlings made history earlier this year by becoming the first Bermudan to play county cricket in England. Now another teenager from the island is aiming to follow in his footsteps. Marcus Scotland, whose grandfather came from Antigua, is currently in Surrey's youth program. The 19-year-old is at Sussex and he struck his highest score so far when he made 174 not out for Surrey under 14s in his team's match against Cambridgeshire under 14s on Sunday. And that's the sport. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc.
Beautiful Barbados and 4D Entertainment welcome you to the Flow Soca on the Hill, Sunday, July 23rd, 2017, where the mega stars of Crop Over 2017 assemble with the Caribbean Fest. Patrice, Skinny Fabulous, Ricky T, Orlando Octave, and Ultimate Rejects to bring you the world's greatest soca party, the Flow Soca on the Hill. Let's gather the people.
The Sajiko Cahill School of Business and Management invites you to attend Navigating a Path to Growth, a risk and competitive intelligence conference at Hilton Barbados Resort on June 26th and 27th, 2017. Speakers include Global Strategy and Risk expert Dr. Andrea Schotter, Regional PwC Risk Assurance Leader Bruce Scott, Miss Lisa Padmore, Dr. Delisle Worrell, Mr. Ian D'Souza, Professor Patrick Hossain, Professor Gillian Marcel, and many others. For more information, call 246-424-7731 or visit www.uwichsb.org. Secure your space today.
Ready. It's another episode when we out on the road. This is what we love to celebrate, to celebrate. This is not Hollywood. No, we don't come out the road. Drink, drink, drink.
King Baba and the guitar. Every fact that I go, you keep on calling me wrong name. But that's okay, 'cause that's my bitch. I don't understand how wearing a name tag on me. Don't know what to say, you still calling me wrong name.
Don't get vexed with me. Don't say that.
Again, the major development of this day, Bermuda's Premier calls elections for July 18, avoiding a planned no-confidence motion against his government. That's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sport around the clock, log on to CarnaNews.com. We'll be back here again tomorrow. But from all of us at CMC News, thank you for watching. Do have yourselves a good night.